It is exactly 9:37. News and views on Salam Media, and my next guest is the president of the Minara Chamber of Commerce, and that, of course, is Suleman. We are going to be talking about the nominations to the Minara Chamber of Commerce Business Awards 2023, and of course, he's here to talk to us about it. And I can't believe it's a year on already, because it seems like it was just yesterday, Solly, that we were talking about the Chamber of Commerce Awards 2022. It's that time again.
Yes, we just got a few more months to get to it, but thank you for having me on your program, and we do appreciate it. Yeah, Alhamdulillah, it's a few months to go, and I think the key is for us to get as many nominees as possible. So one of the purposes of today's interview is to try and encourage all the viewers and listeners to nominate as many people as possible. I think it's important that we recognize those movers and shakers, especially those that have started from humble beginnings to the level it is now, to wherever they are now. And they serve as role models to those up and coming youngsters that need to look up to some people. So I think it's important that we get as many people as possible to be nominated for this awards evening. Minara normally hosts these awards dinners every year, except for the 3 years of COVID.
Of
And
course.
there have been dozens, in fact, many movers and shakers and prominent individuals and businessmen and professionals and community builders that have won these awards. So this year we'd like to encourage. There's been a slow trickle of nominees, and I think a certain amount of apathy. So I think it's important that we get the viewers and the listeners to really nominate those that they think are important and those that they think are role models for the younger generation.
Inshallah. How long have these awards been running? And then let's also look at the type of, we look at the categories,
Categories, yeah.
and yeah, and also, all right, let's just talk about how long these have been running, apart from the
It's
3 years of COVID.
Yeah, I just remember 2009 is when it started. So it's about 14 years now that we have had this
Alhamdulillah.
awards minus the COVID period. So we could say it's about 11 years it's been running. And 2009 was the first awards, and I remember then we had the at that point in time uh, President Jacob Zuma as one of our chief guests as such. It was before the elections, and uh, and we had over maybe about 1,500 people in that program. I mean, in those awards, and at that point in time, we had almost between 30 and 40 awards given out, to prominent individuals around the country at that point in time. So
Let's
it's
understand
quite.
the importance of these awards. We know what the job market looks like. We know that there's a high unemployment rate in our country. Just recently, we've heard about certain, and I hope it doesn't come to pass, but you must be aware of it as well. There were talks about job reservations, that the minority population groups will be cut out of, applying for certain jobs. That is a worry as well. So let's understand the importance of these awards and how we can, via, the Minara Chamber of Commerce, circumvent such negative issues targeting the minority groups in the country.
Well, there's a couple of things. One is I think our individuals, minority individuals, have always felt the need to basically educate the younger ones. I think this is very important. And of course, the quality of education has to be correct. And then the second thing is entrepreneurship. I think it's important at the end of the day for us to be running our own businesses. And I think, at the end of, the reality is uh, people need to be running their own businesses, which creates, it creates employment, reduces poverty, and it's such an important part of our lives. But the thing is, just to digress a little bit, uh, unfortunate reality is when one focuses on race as opposed to competence, you damage the entire economy and you compromise the masses. And we've seen that happening all the time. I think this obsession with race and rather than competence uh, is a recipe for disaster. And we've seen it all the time. And I mean, with the Freedom Charter, we were told that everyone's equal, but it's not happening. And the powerhouses of the world, whether it's Singapore, the UAE, and that type of thing, they don't look at race and don't believe that they must put our people, in the sense, in inverted commas, in there because we've been deprived. And I mean, we're over 30 years into, almost 30 years into the democracy, and we shouldn't have a situation where we now choosing people by race. But the reality is, I think for the minority groups, focus has to be on entrepreneurship development and education. But the sad part of that is many of our people, many of our youngsters are now just emigrating, and that's a challenge. Recently in Ramadan, we set up, one morning I set up a WhatsApp group. I said, there's so many people around the world who could be mentors, who could actually be role models, who basically could advise and guide and basically also find a way to invest in our country, vote in our country, even if they're outside there. Because once a South African, you're a South African at heart, whether you're living in Timbuktu or living in Europe or wherever else. So this WhatsApp group, within 2 hours, we had 1,000 people linking up from all over the world. It was absolutely amazing, and the communities that have been South African communities that have been set up in these areas is really amazing. And many people that are going to some of these countries or wanting to go to these countries or wanting to find jobs, you suddenly find that they've got connectivity, they've got a network. But that's the sad part, though. We need people to stay and help rebuild our country, make it great again, as Donald Trump says. But the reality is different. The reality is different.
All right. I'm laughing because you use Donald Trump's keyword, but be that as it may, it's a very nice phrase, but the man, that's a different
That's
story.
another story.
Let's talk about the Minara Chamber of Commerce. What do you believe, being nominated? I guess being nominated in itself makes you a winner, makes you someone that's, recognizable. Oh, he or she is really good at what he or she does. They've made a meaningful contribution to the community or his or her field of expertise. So that in itself is already
Correct.
being a winner. But let's talk about those people that walk away with the awards. Does it truly propel them into their field of expertise or profession to really get to the next level, inshallah?
But what we find that the winners actually are recognized not just by Minara Chamber, but because of the publicity in that, and many of them have gone on to win more other awards, basically.
Wow.
And that's been great. Well, I mean, many prominent individuals have won the award, be granted the awards, and in the last 13 years, they've actually gone on to far greater things and that type of thing.
So, alhamdulillah, a feather in your cap if you get nominated and possibly being awarded a winner in your category. Let's look at the categories. Have they changed over the years? Have you found that you needed to add more categories in to possibly get more people participating and recognizing that the field is very wide and will be widening as the years progress?
We've actually reduced it because it was becoming too cumbersome. We years ago
Oh,
we had
okay.
probably a large number of, but it becomes too much of a, it becomes too much to really manage that process. So we brought it to the most critical, uh, uh, you know, entities and categories. For example, uh, we started with the business entity of the year, and there's three categories there. It's a large businesses, medium businesses, as well as startups. So that's the one category, divided into three subcategories. And then you've got the business person of the year, the business woman of the year, young entrepreneur, professional achiever, and of course the community builder. So the community builder is not nobody really. It's not a winning thing. It's more a recognizing someone. So the directors and the judges look at the community and see who would be deserving of this community builder award. And of course, it could be more than one person in that category. But the rest of the categories, you end up with three finalists, and on that day of the dinner, you end up with the winner being announced.
Mhm. Are there any monetary awards? One, if you are a winner.
Well, not really, because
No.
the reality is most of these individuals are really achievers in their own right. And, Minara Team is not in a position to be giving any monetary awards as such. But last year, I think Lyft Airlines had given flight tickets for the
Wow.
winners.
Okay. I know this has been running for many years because every year without fail, we've been talking about it here at Salam Media. And I'm also wondering, is there perhaps some sort of a system whereby Minara Chamber of Commerce asks the winners then to, you spoke about a mentorship program earlier on,
Yes.
to give back into the community by way of a mentorship program, or somehow to start giving back just by being recognized as a winner, because undoubtedly if that person is strong enough to be recognized as a winner, they have a lot to contribute to our community. Do they not?
Well, I think it's a brilliant idea. We've actually not been doing that, and I think that's it's something that we need to look at. I think it's an excellent idea. I will basically bring it up to the directors, and I think
Inshallah.
it's actually a very good idea to use these winners to mentor others, and I think
Mhm.
that's something I'm not going to have to present, but I think that's an excellent idea.
Wonderful. You've spoken about the categories. Let's talk about closing dates for the entries,
Uh,
and how do they go about applying? How do people go about applying? Can someone nominate themselves?
Yes, yes, yes. There's no reason
Okay,
why an individual can't. If they feel they have played a role, who knows more about themselves than themselves, So I think it'd be a
absolutely.
great idea for someone to, if nobody nominates an individual, it'd be great if they nominate themselves, because then the judges will decide on exactly who would be the winners out of that. And basically the awards nomination criteria and form is available on the Minara website, uh, www.minara.org.za. So it's www.minara.org.za. And the nominations close on the 31st of July. So we're hoping that we just got a couple of weeks to the closing date. So inshallah, hopefully we
Inshallah.
get a lot of people nominating either themselves, nominating their colleagues or someone they know.
And the grand reception, the grand dinner,
Uh,
when will that happen?
The dinner will be on the 27th of October at the Elangeni Hotel in Durban. So that's on the 27th of October this year at the Elangeni Hotel in Durban.
Oh, inshallah. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, we managed to get a phenomenal guest speaker this year. It would be Professor Salim Karim. I think everyone's heard
Mm,
of him,
of course.
and he's
Mhm.
been happy. He's happy to come on board. Fortunately, he's available. He normally spends a lot of time internationally. But he's actually agreed to be the guest speaker. And I think the focus has to be pandemics and the impact on the economy going forward. So it's not just about the pandemic and the viruses and what have you. It's about how these pandemics and impact on the economy going forward, and how do we manage to circumvent the type of backlash and issues that arose for during the COVID period. Remember, we all were taken aback and all were caught with our pants down, not knowing what to do. Governments around the
Mm.
world. So going forward, we need to be planning for any such eventuality. The judges this year, the independent judges are Mr. Mac Mia, Mr. Naeem Asfath, as well as Mrs. Yasmin Suleman. So those are the three independent judges. Directors don't participate in the judging process.
Okay, Salih Suleman, President of Minara Chamber of Commerce, thank you indeed for talking with us this morning. And inshallah, the
Jazakallah.
nominations will be rolling in after this interview.
Inshallah.
Oh, wow.
Inshallah.
Keep us in your dua. Assalamu alaikum.
Yati wa alaikum salam.
It is exactly 9:52 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. Next, we're going to talk with Bilal Jiwa. He is the Community Liaison Officer for Gift of the Givers Foundation. So that's our final interview for the morning. Please do stay with us, inshallah.